Yes, one of the countries that we didn't get statistics from was Russia, although I'm sure that it would follow the same general pattern. We have recently announced that we are putting forward anti-missile bases in Poland and other Eastern European countries, which we say are for defending against Iran's non-existent long-range missiles, but which the Russians regard as essentially enabling a first strike as part of this full-spectrum dominance idea that was mentioned earlier. First of all, do you see this as fitting into your paradigm? And secondly, since bullies usually pick on very weak people, and Russia is now flexing its oil and gas-based economic muscle, as well as announcing that it is retargeting European cities as part of its response to this, aren't we getting a little dangerous at this point?
Well, to put it in a broader context, there's no question that the U.S. and its NATO allies did engage in bullying behavior at a time when Russia was very weak during the 1990s. Among other things, NATO expanded quite literally into Russia's political backyard with membership to the Baltic republics and other small countries on Russia's border. With regard to the missile defense program, I think actually U.S. officials are being candid about this, that this is directed against the prospect of Iran and perhaps other countries eventually having a missile capability that could strike European nations, and that it's not really directed against Russia because there is no missile defense system now or on the drawing board that would be able to neutralize the vast nuclear arsenal that Moscow has. However, I think, again, the U.S. is as ham-handed as ever in that instead of backing off and saying, look, this is not directed against the Russian people or the Russian government, when Moscow raised these objections, the smart thing to have done would just have been to back off at least for a while. And especially since Iran does not have this capability at the moment, there is no urgency to establish this kind of system. But instead, the U.S. has just pushed forward, dismissed Russian objections, and relations between Washington and Moscow are getting very, very dicey, very, very rapidly. This is one of the more worrisome things. We are awfully close to having a second Cold War between Moscow and Washington. And that could get very, very ugly, especially since Washington shows signs of creating yet another Cold War between the U.S. and China, which is another story all in itself. I'm giving a signal that I do have to cut it off at this point. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your attention.